My name is Emma, and I was 16 when this happened. Babysitting was my main way of earning money, and I thought I'd seen it all until that night. The Johnson family reached out to me one Friday evening. They needed someone to watch their 7-year-old daughter, Ava, while they attended a work dinner. "She's already eaten," Mrs. Johnson explained as she slipped on her coat. "Bedtime is 8. Just keep an eye on her, and you can relax after that." Mr. Johnson handed me a cordless phone. "This is for emergencies," he said. "We don't get good cell service here." Ava was shy but sweet, clutching her stuffed bunny like it was her lifeline. She barely spoke as she sat watching cartoons. By 8:15, she was tucked into bed, her bunny clutched tightly, her nightlight glowing softly. I headed downstairs, ready for an uneventful night. At 8:30, the cordless phone rang. "Hello." A man's voice came through the line, low and calm. "Is Ava asleep yet?" I froze. "Who is this?" I demanded. "Put her on the phone," the man said, ignoring my question. I hung up immediately, my heart racing. The number on the caller ID was blank. 15 minutes later, the phone rang again. "Don't hang up," the man said sharply. "Go check on her." Shaking, I grabbed my cell phone and crept upstairs. Ava was in bed, sleeping soundly. Relieved, I stepped into the hallway. That's when I noticed it, another cordless phone identical to the one I was holding, sitting outside the guest room door. I hadn't seen it earlier. Confused, I picked it up. It was warm. The floorboards creaked behind me. I spun around, but the hallway was empty. Panic surged. I rushed back to Ava's room, locking the door behind me. Ava stirred, clutching her bunny tighter, but stayed asleep. My hands trembled as I dialed 911. The operator kept me calm and assured me help was on the way. Then the banging started. "Emma, open the door," the man growled, his voice eerily close. "You know who I am." When the police arrived, they found the man hiding in the guest room closet. It was Ava's stepdad, a man who had lost custody months ago due to violent behavior. He had no visitation rights but had found a way into the house while the Johnsons were away. He'd been watching Ava from the shadows, using a burner phone to terrorize me. The Johnsons were horrified and thanked me profusely for protecting Ava. As for me, I quit babysitting for good after that night. My name is Lily, and this happened when I was 17. At the time, I was desperate for extra money, so when I saw a babysitting ad in the newspaper offering $200 for just a few hours, I thought I hit the jackpot. The ad said a babysitter was needed for a single night, and the father, Mr. Ricky, would be out from 7 p.m. to midnight. It seemed too good to be true, but I decided to call anyway. Mr. Ricky sounded normal enough on the phone. He told me his son Andrew was sick and needed to stay in bed. My only job was to stay downstairs and make sure Andrew didn't come down or bother me. "He needs his rest," Ricky said. "He's already eaten, so you don't need to feed him or anything." I thought it was odd that I wasn't allowed to check on him, but $200 was too good to pass up. When I arrived at the house, Ricky greeted me with a warm smile. He was in his late 30s, clean-shaven, and looked completely normal. Maybe a little nervous, but I assumed it was because he was leaving his son with a stranger. The house was modest but tidy. Before leaving, Ricky repeated the rules. "Stay downstairs. Don't check on Andrew unless he comes downstairs. Don't call unless there's an emergency." I nodded and assured him everything would be fine. At exactly 7 p.m., he left. At first, everything was uneventful. I settled on the couch and started watching TV, occasionally scrolling through my phone. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. Around 9 p.m., I heard a creak from upstairs, like footsteps. My heart jumped, but I reminded myself it was probably the old house settling. A few minutes later, I heard it again, this time louder. It sounded like someone pacing back and forth. I froze, staring at the ceiling. My mind raced. Should I check on Andrew? But Ricky had been so clear. Stay downstairs. The sound stopped as suddenly as it started, and the silence felt even more suffocating. I tried to focus on the TV, convincing myself it was nothing, but I couldn't shake the unease creeping over me. Around 9:30 p.m., I heard something that made my blood run cold, a child's voice calling from upstairs. "Lily, help me. I'm stuck." The voice was faint but unmistakable. My heart pounded as I stared at the staircase. I didn't know what to do. I called Ricky's number, but he didn't answer. Panic set in. What if Andrew was hurt? Ignoring Ricky's instructions, I decided to check on Andrew. Slowly, I climbed the stairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. When I reached the top, I saw a small door slightly ajar. That had to be Andrew's room. I pushed the door open and froze. The bed was empty. The covers were neatly tucked, and there was no sign of anyone. Andrew. I called, my voice trembling. Behind me, I heard a soft giggle. I spun around, and my heart nearly stopped. Standing in the doorway was Ricky, but something was horribly wrong. He wasn't dressed like before. He was wearing nothing but a diaper, and he was staring at me with a twisted smile on his face. "I've been a bad boy, Lily," he said in a sing-song voice. "You have to help me." I backed away, my legs trembling. "Ricky, what's going on? Where's Andrew?" He tilted his head, still smiling. "I'm Andrew. I've been naughty. Clean me, Lily." I felt sick. My brain struggled to process what I was seeing. How had he gotten back into the house? Why was he acting like this? He took a step toward me, and I instinctively grabbed the nearest object, a lamp from the bedside table. "Stay back," I shouted. Ricky giggled again, unfazed. "You can't leave. You have to take care of me." I didn't wait to see what he'd do next. I shoved past him, sprinting down the stairs. He followed, his bare feet thudding against the floor as he shouted, "Come back, Lily. You can't leave." I reached the front door and fumbled with the locks. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the door open. Just as I managed to pull it ajar, I felt his hand grab my shoulder. I screamed and shoved the door open, throwing myself outside. I slammed the door shut behind me and ran to the neighbor's house, tears streaming down my face. The neighbor, a middle-aged woman, let me in and called the police after I told her what happened. When the officers arrived, they searched Ricky's house, but he was gone. No sign of him or any child. The bed upstairs was exactly as I'd left it, empty and undisturbed. They took my statement and promised to investigate, but I could tell they didn't believe me. They probably thought I was some scared teenager overreacting to a strange man. The next morning, I got a text from an unknown number. "Come back, Lily. Finish your job. You'll get paid." I blocked the number immediately. I thought about calling the police again, but what would I say? There was no proof of anything, and I just wanted to forget the whole ordeal. I never babysat again after that night. To this day, I don't know what Ricky's intentions were, and I don't want to. I still have nightmares about his twisted smile and the way he said, "Clean me, Lily. Do your job."
I remember that night vividly. It was supposed to be an easy gig, babysitting my aunt's friend's kid, Sam, a 5-year-old bundle of energy. I was 16, in high school, and desperate to make some cash, so when my aunt suggested me for the job, I agreed. I figured a few hours watching TV while Sam slept would be a walk in the park. How wrong I was. It started off fine. I arrived at their house a little before 7 p.m. It was a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind of place where nothing bad ever seemed to happen. Sam's mom gave me the usual rundown: dinner in the fridge, emergency numbers on the counter, bedtime at 8:30, and then left with her husband for a dinner party. Sam was easy to entertain. We played with his action figures for a while, then I let him watch some cartoons while I heated up a frozen pizza. It wasn't long before he started yawning, so I got him ready for bed. By 8:30, he was asleep, and I was on the couch scrolling through my phone. That's when the night started to get weird. At first, it was subtle. I thought I heard a noise outside, a faint rustling, like someone moving through the bushes near the living room window. I got up, peeked through the curtains, and saw nothing but darkness. Maybe it was just the wind, I told myself, settling back onto the couch. Around 9:15, I got hungry and decided to order pizza. I called the local place, placed my order, and waited. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Here's the thing, I didn't hear a car pull up. No engine, no tires on the driveway, nothing. Just the sudden chime of the doorbell cutting through the silence. I hesitated for a moment, but then laughed at myself for being paranoid. It was just the pizza guy. I opened the door and saw a man standing there holding the pizza box. He was tall, wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his face. Something about him felt off. Maybe it was how he stood there silently, staring at me like he was waiting for something. How much do I owe you?" I asked, reaching for my wallet. The man didn't answer right away. He tilted his head, almost like he was studying me, and then said, "You live here?" His voice was calm, too calm. My instincts screamed at me to lie. "No, I'm just babysitting," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Where are the parents?" he asked, his tone casual but laced with something I couldn't place. "They'll be back soon," I said quickly, handing him the money. "Thanks for the pizza." He didn't leave. He stood there for a second longer, then handed me the box without another word and walked off. I watched him disappear into the shadows. There was no car. He'd come on foot. I locked the door and checked all the windows, making sure everything was secure. My heart was racing, but I told myself it was nothing. Just some weirdo. I took the pizza to the kitchen and tried to calm down. And then I heard it. The faint sound of footsteps upstairs. I froze. Sam was asleep up there. Or at least, he was supposed to be. Grabbing the nearest thing I could find, a kitchen knife, I crept up the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. "Sam?" I whispered as I reached the top. No answer. I pushed open his bedroom door and found him sound asleep, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. The room was quiet. Too quiet. That's when I noticed the window. It was open, just a crack, enough to let in the cool night air. I knew for a fact I hadn't left it open. I locked the window and pulled the curtains shut, then sat in the room for a while, watching Sam to make sure he was okay. After what felt like an eternity, I went back downstairs. And that's when I saw it. The front door was wide open. Every hair on my body stood on end. I knew I'd locked it. I was sure of it. Slowly, I stepped toward the door, gripping the knife tightly. The night outside was pitch black, and I couldn't see a thing. Suddenly, there was a loud knock from the back door. I spun around, my heart in my throat. Who the hell was out there? I didn't wait to find out. Grabbing Sam, who was now awake and crying, I bolted for the neighbor's house. I didn't stop until we were pounding on their door, begging them to let us in. The cops arrived a few minutes later, but the creep was long gone. They found footprints around the house and a cigarette butt near the back door, but nothing else. Sam's parents were horrified when they got home, but grateful that we were okay. To this day, I don't know who that man was or what he wanted. But I do know one thing, I'm never babysitting again.